Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. George Orwell said, "Big Brother is watching you," and it turns out Big Brother is actually Big Al.
And the pledges that have been made here have to be kept. But here's the difference this time around. We're going to have real-time monitoring of where the emissions are coming from and who's responsible for them. So companies, institutions, investors, anybody that's made a pledge, they're going to be held to that pledge. And the United Nations Secretary General announced a new institution to monitor and assess all of the net zero pledges from companies and others. And those who don't keep their pledges are going to be called out this time around. So the ability to greenwash is going to be diminished quite considerably.
And your Climate Trace Coalition uses satellites to monitor greenhouse gas emissions. How significant will this technology be for holding countries and companies accountable?
Well, yes, we use it's a coalition of artificial intelligence companies and NGOs. We get data continuously from 300 existing satellites, more than 11,000 ground-based, air-based, sea-based sensors, multiple internet data streams. And using artificial intelligence, all that information is combined, visible light, infrared, all of the other information that is brought in. And we can now accurately determine where the greenhouse gas emissions are coming from. And next year, we'll have it down to the level of every single power plant, refinery, every large ship, every plane, every waste dump, and we'll have the identities of the people who are responsible for each of those greenhouse gas emission streams. And if investors or governments or civil society activists want to hold them responsible, they will have the information upon which to base their action in holding them responsible.
So Al Gore, who has a $30,000 utility bill, is going to be spying on everybody else's carbon footprint with his satellites. In 2006, the year when he announced we only had 10 years left for the planet, he consumed 221,000 kilowatt hours. And that was only at his Tennessee house. He has lots of other houses and flies all over the world. But the plan isn't to just spy on corporations, it's to spy on every individual as well too. Credit card companies are already tracking people's fuel purchases. Right now it's voluntary, but there's little doubt that in the future your credit card will simply turn off once you reach your quota. This obsession with spying on people is nothing new for Al Gore. Right after he took office as vice president in 1993, the White House announced the Clipper chip, which was designed to spy on everybody's electronic communications. That was at a time when people valued their privacy, and it was soundly rejected by the public. But the failure of Clipper didn't stop Al Gore. In 1995, I was working on Al Gore's follow-up spine project. It was the Bankers Trust private key escrow system. I was the hardware representative from Sandia National Laboratories for Al Gore's spine scheme. The intent of this system was once again to give the government the ability to spy on everybody's electronic communications. Like Clipper, it was a hardware-based system, but it was supposed to be slightly less offensive to the public than Clipper was. Fortunately, we dodged the bullet in 1995 when PGP came out with a software-based open-source key escrow system. This took control of communications away from Al Gore and made him very frustrated. But Al Gore is back, and now he's going to spy on us with satellites and electronic commerce. Now let's listen some more to Al Gore's conversation with MSNBC.
That's really remarkable. It's been 15 years, though, since An Inconvenient Truth came out. How much ground have we lost because of inaction and the rollbacks under President Trump, former President Trump, over the past 15 years? Have we lost so much time that we are not going to be able to recover?
That was some pretty spectacularly biased journalism. But to her point, it isn't clear to me how we could have lost ground since 2006. Because in 2006, Al Gore said the world only had 10 years left. We're already 5 years past Al Gore's expiration date, and he's happily spying on everyone in the world. When Al Gore received the Nobel Prize in 2007, he predicted that the Arctic would be ice-free by the year 2014.
Another new study to be presented by U.S. Navy researchers later this week warns it could happen in as little as 7 years. 7 years from now. In the last few months, it has been harder and harder to misinterpret the signs that our world is spinning out of kilter.
And since Al Gore made that prediction in 2007, there's been a large increase in Arctic sea ice extent and volume. This is what the ice looked like in 2007, and this is what it looks like now. There's been a large expansion of thick ice out towards Alaska and Siberia. This has nothing to do with climate. It's about Big Al watching you. Now let's listen to one more thing which Big Al said very closely.
Anybody that's made a pledge, they're going to be held to that pledge. And the United Nations Secretary General announced a new institution to monitor and assess all of the net zero pledges from companies and others. And
so they're only going to be spying on people in countries which made pledges. But China and Russia didn't show up for the Glasgow Climate Summit. So this is yet another scheme to punish Western countries and benefit China and Russia. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on Big Brother for the past 14 years. You can visit him, Curie, and Caesar on the web at realclimatescience.com.